The citizens are straight up fed up.
Three years ago, I called for the implementation of body cameras.
Body-worn cameras are going to foster accountability.
Just like the automatic replay in sports, we're going to depend on these cameras to show us what really happened.
You are now suited up to hit the streets, Mayor.
I'm ready.
Citizens are going to demand transparency.
Transparency.
And anything less will create more problems in the community than it solves.
While everybody's talking about transparency, these lawmakers are saying, hold on, we're rushing this through. There are problems from the get-go.
You start off wrong, you end wrong. I mean, we're going to buy a tool that we don't even have a policy for.
We are not moving this city forward in the right direction.
As soon as we have an incident and somebody says, well, the video wasn't working.
Did you click on your camera right away?
No, man.
Then the next thing we're going to have is we're going to have a protest.
The body camera was not turned on until after he was dead. Where is the film? Where?
We didn't spend $8 million for body cameras to see the aftermath.
We know of 50 other cases where HPD can't come up with the video. $8 million later and several months later, there's no transparency.
It is a waste of our money and a slap in our face.
This is not a conservative or a liberal issue or a black or white issue. No one wants to waste their money. We are spending $8 million for show.
I've been covering police for more than 20 years, and for me, there's no other way to put it. Right now, things are a mess. Think about it. Baltimore, Charlotte, Baton Rouge, Chicago. And so much of the public's mistrust and anger at police has been fueled by one thing, what's been captured on video. It's why so much now is riding on police body cameras, like the shooting that happened right here.
At about 12:30 at night, there's a man named Alva Brazil. He's walking down the street, and he actually walks into the street waving his arms, and he's got a gun in his hand.
We see surveillance video from a nearby gas station, but it's from pretty far away and pretty grainy. What's he doing out there?
Nobody really knows. His wife later told us that his horse had gone missing from a nearby stable, and he was looking for it. He was looking for somebody to help him.
But why have the gun?
Legally, he shouldn't have had the gun. We actually looked it up, and he had a history of felony drug charges.
But at the time when the officers were approaching the scene, they didn't know any of this.
No, not at all. They were just on a routine patrol, and they saw Brazil standing in the middle of the street.
So tell me what happened. Just briefly. My partner and I were coming northbound on Cullen, and he's got his arm up, and we thought he was flagging us down for something, so we just slow rolled to him, and I turned my spotlight on him, and I saw him pointing the gun at us.
The thing is, both officers in that car had cameras on, but they weren't rolling when they came up to the scene.
The first frame of body cam video that we see, Alva Brazil is dying on the street.
Come on, go hands, bro.
All right, I got him.
This was the first critical test of Houston's body cam program. We don't see the shooting, we don't see what led up to it. The man is already shot and on the ground.
I called for an ambulance. God damn.
So this is the body cam HPD uses, and it was set with what's called a pre-record function. In other words, when an officer hits the record button, it goes back in its memory and captures the prior 30 seconds of video. But even with that, on Cullen Boulevard, the officers missed the shooting. So we wanted to know exactly by how much.
What I did is I've synced up all three cameras because we've got 2 body cams and the gas station. I'm just going to fast forward here. You can see the very first time that we see any body cam video is on the passenger side at 49 seconds.
The passenger side officer misses the shooting by 49 seconds?
Correct, okay. Correct.
And then driver's side camera?
Minute
119?
Yeah, 119.
After the shots were fired?
Correct. If it had been on 50 seconds earlier, you could have potentially seen what happened.
My name is Ray Hunt, president of the Houston Police Officers Union.
This was the first real high-profile test of this department's body-worn camera policy. Pass or fail?
If the officer's primary responsibility was his safety, he passed. If his primary responsibility was videotaping the entire scene, he failed. If he was your cameraman and only had to worry about videotaping that, I would blame that cameraman for not getting it. But that's not his primary responsibility. His primary responsibility is to make sure he's safe and the public's safe.
Ward and Cullen, where he ended his life right here, his journey right here, Ward and Cullen. They did not turn their body cameras on until after they killed him. And that body camera should have been on immediately when they said he tried to flag them down. Immediately they jumped out their truck, they should have had their body cameras on. And we would have knew what went down. I didn't hear them say, stop, freeze, put the gun down, get down, none of that. Why wasn't the body cameras on? If it's not turned on, you don't know what the truth is.
The truth about Houston's body camera program is much bigger than one case. Just look at what prosecutors were emailing police. Problems with locating video, non-existing body-worn camera videos, or videos just not showing up in the system. The DA's office looked at the first 2 months of the body camera program. What they found was, of all the cases filed by cops with cameras, there was a ton of cases where there was no video.
How many are we talking here?
729 cases with no video in the first 2 months of the program.
I got questions for HPD. Are your officers forgetting to push record? Are they neglecting to do so? Or are they rolling, but the videos are just MIA and the police can't find them?
But getting answers hasn't been easy. It's taken an entire month for the police chief to grant us an interview. And now that we're finally here, she's giving us a whole 15 minutes.
We provided this to your office a month ago. Do you dispute the district attorney's numbers?
I would never dispute her numbers.
She identifies more than 700 cases filed by officers who were assigned body cams in which there was no video. What happened to the video?
I do not know what criteria she is using.
This is evidence. If you can't find the evidence, how do you proceed in court?
There has never been a situation or a case where evidence was not provided to the district attorney's office, ever.
Thanks. So one of the key players that's really had a lot of questions in the city about this whole body-worn camera policy is Councilmember Michael Kubash. How are you, sir? There's one thing about Mike Kubash, he'll tell it like it is.
The citizens are relying on them to do their job. And I knew that when this takes place and we don't have the video, we're going to have a problem.
$8 million if you only outfit the officer with the camera, but don't do the back half. Does it get us anywhere?
Well, I think what it gets us is it gets us in a bigger mess because the public is expecting the cameras to be used for the protection of the officer, protection of the citizen. And then when the video is asked for, there's no video. It's an insult. It's an insult to the public.
This is a game changer in our country. It's a game changer in our city. And if we don't have confidence in the cameras, then what's the point?
What are you doing to What are y'all doing to me? I'm calling the cops. I'm calling them. Stop. I am the cops.
Weeks weeks are going by and we're sitting here and continuing to wait. Checking back with you, seeing if you got any progress. Can you kindly give me a shout back at your convenience? Don't mean to be a pest, but they do pay me to be persistent. Hope you understand. I have called and called and called. I have emailed and emailed. I've copied the mayor's office on this. And under the law, we have every right to see these videos. It's like you bought the cameras, but you didn't think about when somebody asked for the video.
We get a F mark. We flunk.
Councilmember Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. 8 out of 75 is not what we were looking for. Channel 11 is our litmus test for this. You're going back and doing open records requests on videos that you can't get. So it puts us in a tough spot. We don't know how effective our video cameras are.
And assault. So we're trying to look at videos in 4 types of crimes.
Right. Resisting arrest, evading arrest.
Interfering with police, and assault on a police officer.
These are going to be the crimes that use of force is likely going to be a key issue.
Right, where it's like a he said, she said between the police officer's word against the citizens.
The kind of case where it's kind of probably going to be a struggle, and there's probably going to be questions about that struggle.
And the video should answer those questions.
Right, right.
What's your problem? I'm Randall Callanan, and I am a civil rights lawyer for the past 20 years in Houston, Texas. Get on the ground. Get on the ground now. In my career, I have filed at least 100 federal civil rights cases involving police misconduct. You need to get on your stomach right now. Get on your stomach. And we see here that they did use the taser on him, but it seemed to be an appropriate use because he had already threatened the officers with physical violence several times and was actually moving towards one of the officers with his fist raised when the taser was discharged. So this example would assure the public that the arrest is happening properly and there was no use of excessive force.
Let me move on to the second one.
There's many things wrong with this second set of videos. First of all, it's not continuous. It was turned off and turned on.
What are you doing to? What are y'all doing to me? I'm coming.
What was it that made the officer feel it was justified to use any force whatsoever? Without that missing section, we can't tell whether the force was justified or unjustified.
Relax, relax, relax.
So what about the other videos we're waiting on? Well, they're not coming anytime soon. Back in September, Houston police said it would give us another batch of 7 videos, but it would take 116 business days to get us them.
Councilmember Starting.
It shouldn't take months to get information. This is a game changer in our country. It's a game changer in our city. So if we don't have confidence in the cameras or the video, then what's the point?
116 business days to produce 7 videos. Is that transparent at all?
Are we being transparent? Yes, we are.
How can you say that when it takes months and months and months to produce videos?
Working on that. The bottom line is this process was reviewed. It was voted on by City Council.
It just seemed like we didn't have any choices.
It's irresponsible for us to make this purchase at this point.
The council was expected to approve what was presented to them because the police said we were supposed to take it.
One of the key sticking points Houston police kept pushing for was storing and managing all of this video by itself, in-house, even though 34 other major cities use a private vendor and store it in the cloud. So how's that slowing things down? Well, consider what happens whenever the public requests a body camera video. The open records folks at police headquarters can't download it on any computer here. Instead, they have to grab a hard drive and hop in the car. Where do they go? To HPD's Technology Services building, more than a mile away. Here they have to wait while that video transfers to the drive, and then It's back in the car for that mile-long trip back to police headquarters to begin processing the public's request.
If you cannot retrieve the data, then the whole process has failed.
Motion carries.
My name is Anise Parker, and I was the mayor of the city of Houston for 6 years.
Did you have confidence that the IT side of the Houston Police Department could do the job, or did you have concerns?
At the time we made this purchase, I had concerns about whether we would be able to handle the IT piece. We could always go back and revisit that decision. My thought was that if we went with the cloud storage, we couldn't backtrack that, but if we stored it in-house and it didn't work, we could always reevaluate.
It's one thing to capture the video.
Yes, you have to be able to retrieve it, and you have to be able to retrieve it timely. If the Houston Police Department cannot do that, then the City Council needs to go into session very, very quickly and figure out another solution.
If I forget to turn on the camera, it doesn't matter because the car door is going to actuate it and turn it on automatically for us. And as you can see, as soon as I get out of the car, it's already actuated the cameras. That safeguards the public that something will not be missed.
Just like the automatic replay in sports, we're going to depend on these cameras to show us what really happened. We will see it on the video.
As we've seen in the Alva Brazil shooting,
Did you click on your camera?
No, man.
the body camera was not turned on until after he was dead.
It turns out there's other ways to cut down on the human error of an officer actually remembering to physically press a button to activate his body camera. We flew out to Seattle, Washington to find out exactly what those cutting-edge technologies are and what Houston's missing out on.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put on my Axon Body 2 camera. My name is Steve Tuttle. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Communications for Taser International. So today what we want to do is showcase some of the new technology advances that we have for the Axon cameras. There are certain things that would actually actuate the camera automatically without even me having to touch a button. So the beauty of this is if I'm patrolling around right now and I get a radio call out, I know I need to turn the camera on. I'm gonna double click it. But if I maybe see a person I hear getting beat up, I may jump out of this car spontaneously so fast that I actually forget to turn the camera on. In this particular car, if you open the front door, it will automatically send a signal to turn all these cameras on. So for example, I'm gonna pull up here and I see someone that might be looking for some assistance. So I'm gonna go ahead and park the car, and when I get out of the car, if I forget to turn on the camera, it doesn't matter because the car door is going to actuate it and turn it on automatically for us. And as you can see, as soon as I get out of the car, it's already actuated the cameras. And that way we're not missing something that might later be very, very important for a particular situation.
The officer doesn't have to think about it.
You can set this Bluetooth technology to turn on the cameras doing really almost anything. One of the things you can do real simply is anytime you actuate your siren or your light bar, if they do that, it automatically triggers to turn it on. Again, that safeguards the public that something will not be missed.
We were never made aware of the ability to have the camera automatically turned on when a police officer opens up their door. We were never made aware of the camera being able to turn on when the sirens went on. We were never made aware of camera having the ability to turn on in these type of instances. And the only way we knew about it is when you told us about it. And I look back and I go, why weren't we made aware of this? Because that is cutting edge.
Turns out Houston police body cameras have an even bigger safety net to capture video designed to never miss an incident. The feature's called Record After the Fact, but HPD chose not to turn it on.
The only thing worse than not having video cameras is having a camera that wasn't recording.
It can be configured to constantly buffer video in the background throughout the day, even if the system is not actively recording. You can go back in time and recover that critical video even a day or two after it happened.
If you're going to capture data, why don't you go back to the beginning of the shift to capture the data? Everybody's looking for transparency in this, and it seems like we're lacking transparency, and we've been lacking transparency since day one, and that's alarming.
why not have the opportunity to go back several hours and never miss an incident?
I'm going back 2 minutes.
What made you make that decision?
I just believe I needed more time to capture the incident, and I think the 2 minutes will do that for me.
KHOU 11 investigates a major change at the Houston Police Department that will hold officers more accountable. Investigative reporter Jeremy Rogowski has exclusive details on how HPD is changing things up.
Well, Greg, here's one of those cameras, and when an officer hits the record button, it can go back in its memory and capture what happened before. How far back? Well, the policy was for 30 seconds, but now HPD is increasing that time much longer, so controversial incidents are not lost.
When it was 30 seconds, we were perfectly fine with it. By the way, that's the national average. 30 seconds is the national average on how far it should go back. It's all because of privacy issues.
It's not because of transparency?
Well, listen, transparency can only go so far. Transparency is, what am I doing whenever I'm performing a police action? That is fair game, every single thing that I'm doing when I'm performing a police action. But taking a whiz or going to the restroom, no, that's not something that anybody has a right to see, not a supervisor, not internal affairs, and hell no, not the public.
Right?
There's 2 officers apparently that respond to this scene, and I've only received one body video camera.
Where's the other?
I have no idea. Since we don't have the video, it just kind of leaves us guessing. My name is Eddie Gomez, and I'm a criminal defense attorney in Houston, Texas. I have a client that's accused of an assault.
Right?
There's 2 officers apparently that respond to this scene, and I've only received one body video camera.
Where's the other?
I have no idea to this day. We did get a copy of a video, but it was placed on the seat of the patrol car and pointed to the back seat so that it could just see my client as he was sitting there after he was arrested. The complaining witness and a witness were questioned, but we just don't have any footage about what they said. None of that's on video for us to review. Certainly, if something's on video, then it speaks for itself. And we won't have to guess about whether the officer ad-libbed or paraphrased something. But since we don't have the video, it just kind of leaves us guessing. And so that's something that needs to be brought to light in front of a jury.
We have only one item on today's agenda. The item is a presentation from the Houston Police Department.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to reaffirm how important this issue of transparency is as it relates to HPD's policy governing the use of body cameras. We dedicated a portion of the policy to dealing with audits of recordings. Wanted to give you an idea that there's some accountability from an officer's supervisors that they check these videos.
We asked 3 different times in 3 different ways how Houston Police might be checking up on its body cam officers. We got nothing. Have you done a single audit to date?
We have done a random audit, yes.
How many?
1.
6 months, 1 audit.
Yes.
Is that transparent?
We knew this was a learning curve. This is a new process. We're having to work with outside entities, and we are going to eventually figure it all out, tighten our policies, and have a process that I think the city would be very proud of.
This is from Denver?
Yeah. What this is Denver's error report, and they do it weekly.
Every week?
Yeah, they do it every Monday.
Every single Monday they check on their cops to say who's doing this right and who's not. The difference is huge here. Houston has none of this.
Right, no, not at all.
If they don't know where the problem is, how are they going to know how to fix
Correct it? Yeah.
How else are you going to check the effectiveness in it? To me, it's like making sausage in the dark because you don't know what's going on and you don't know what you're putting in it.
Any other discussion? In favor? Opposed? Granted. Congratulations, Chief Officer.
Your work's been fantastic, so we appreciate everything you've done because you've helped us kind of test drive it from an outside perspective looking in. I think eventually what you're going to see is a system that is going to have automatic triggering capabilities, that when the door opens, the camera comes on, the lights go on, the camera comes on. If you get the right technology, you can save money, save time, increase transparency, and build trust, and that's my goal. We need to see the whole picture, the true picture, unedited, so people can see from start to finish what really happened.
If what you just watched concerns you and you feel compelled to make your voice heard, here's how to become part of the solution. You can click on our call to action at bodycamtransparency.com. You can tell your city council member you want more transparency. This story is not over, and we're not done either. Body cameras hold great promise, but only with true transparency.
To capture what they're doing to protect them, protect the taxpayer, and protect the public.
Houston's new police chief calls body cameras a big priority.
And he's pledging to make some big changes after watching our investigation into HPD's body camera program. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Mia Gradney.
And I'm Greg Hurst.
KHOU 11 Investigates first uncovered how Houston's body camera program is falling short of its promises.
And now Chief Art Acevedo is promising more accountability, more transparency. He sat down one-on-one with investigative reporter Jeremy Rogowski. And what did he have to say, Jeremy?
Well, Greg and Mia, the chief plans to crack down on cops who don't turn their cameras on when required. And in the future, he also hopes to take the load off of officers from always having to manually press record. Chief Art Acevedo has a strong message to any officer who might think body cameras are not important.
I want to make it very clear to our men and women that if they have a critical incident and they don't have that thing on, and without excuse or justification, they're going to have some significant consequences.
That warning comes after KHOU 11 Investigates discovered problems in the early months of HPD's body camera program. For instance, the district attorney's office identified more than 700 cases with missing or unaccounted for body cam video. The department also failed to audit videos as policy requires. And in this video, officers didn't press record before shooting a man with a gun.
I called for an ambulance.
The first frames show him already dying in the street.
We need to see the whole picture, the true picture.
Houston's new chief hopes to harness technology to do just that.
I think eventually what you're going to see is a system that is going to have automatic triggering capabilities.
Like when emergency lights and sirens go on, a sensor would automatically trigger the body cameras on. Or when a patrol car door opens.
And as you can see, as soon as I get out of the car, it's already actuated the cameras.
The officer doesn't have to think about it. KHOU 11 Investigates highlighted these cutting-edge tools that other big city police departments use, including Austin PD, where Acevedo has spent the past 9.5 years.
If you get the right technology, you can save money, save time, increase transparency, and build trust, and that's my goal.
So what's the timetable for his goal of implementing automatic camera activation tools? Well, the chief would only tell me sooner rather than later. He will likely need to work with the police officers union to make that all happen. The union president did not return our request for comment. Jeremy Rogowski, KHOU 11 Investigates.
Less than a year after Houston police officers started wearing body cameras, the new police chief is suspending the rollout of more cameras.
Our Jeremy Rogowski has been looking into problems with body cam programs for months and looks at what's behind the sudden change.
Cops are complaining, Chief Art Acevedo says, that at times the battery on these cameras dies before the end of their shift. And that's not the only issue that's causing the chief to call a timeout on the program.
Get on the ground! Put your hands behind your back!
Body cameras can foster transparency and accountability, but only if you can count on them, Chief Acevedo says.
The truth of the matter is we are issuing cameras to people that officers don't have confidence in.
The chief has ordered no additional cameras be deployed for the time being. The 2,000 already in service will stay on the streets.
I'm going to do the due diligence to ensure we have the right system, and not just in terms of the camera, but are we doing the right approach?
That approach, the chief says, involves other aspects of the body camera program, like how data is stored and retrieved and how technology can automatically turn cameras on, so officers don't always have to manually press record.
I think you're better served to take a timeout, reevaluate, figure out what the best path moving forward is.
I believe this chief really gets it. I think he understands the problem, and I believe he's going to address it.
Meanwhile, the camera supplier, WatchGuard, told us, we do not have battery issues. The batteries last 10 hours recording constantly and 19 hours on standby mode. A WatchGuard spokesperson adds that the company has, quote, met or exceeded the city's expectations in its contract. Jeremy Rogowski, KHOU 11 Investigates.
6 months after KHOU 11 Investigates exposed flaws with the Houston Police body cam program, HPD still isn't following its own policy and living up to a promise it made to you. Investigative reporter Jeremy Rogowski joins us now. He's got an update and the exclusive. Jeremy?
Yeah, and that promise was all about transparency. Right. Are the cameras working? Are officers turning them on when they're supposed to? Are they behaving on the videos? Well, regular checkups that HPD requires of itself in writing are supposed to help answer those questions. But we discovered the department has come up short.
Get out of the car! Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
Body cameras open a window into the world.
Let me see your hands! Just keep your hands where I can see them.
Of Houston cops on the beat.
Hey, don't run, buddy! Don't run!
There are those who run.
My partner's gonna make sure you... Hey, hang on! Please, sir, no.
Those who are combative.
Did he grab me first? Bro, did he grab me first? Put your hands behind your back! Tase him.
There's the mentally unstable.
On the computer right here, he's erasing my records!
And the inebriated.
Apparently I'm naked in the back of a cop car, so... You were also naked in somebody else's yard. I must have at some point.
You're going to have video that's going to increase transparency.
But the transparency that these cameras were supposed to bring, the transparency that HPD promised when it launched the program 13 months ago, has been more rhetoric than reality, more talk than action.
Hands behind your back, stop resisting! Stop resisting!
For starters, all the videos you see here took months for HPD to release because of computer and staffing issues. Months for the public to see whether or not officers on the beat
hands behind your back
are behaving the way they should.
You know how many people you put in danger right now?
And then the department hit a snag with the cameras themselves.
We need to take a pause.
In February, Chief Art Acevedo froze the deployment of cameras because of supposed battery problems. He emailed the mayor's office saying we're losing confidence in them and promised a full technical report in 10 days. But 3.5 months later, Acevedo has not followed through.
How bad were the batteries? How bad was the problem?
Still undetermined.
Chief Acevedo declined our interview request and instead offered his assistant chief, James Jones, to answer our questions.
How do you determine how to fix a problem when you don't even have a handle on what the problem is?
We are compiling the data. We'll have all the complaints. I think we'll have a report done.
HPD also has missed the mark when it comes to what its own policy requires. Monthly audits of videos by supervisors and 2 semi-annual audits to spot any technical problems and officer mistakes.
Have any of those audits been done?
They're not complete, but they should be. I think we'll have that in a week or 2, probably 2 weeks.
So the answer is no.
Yes, that's correct.
You're not following your own policy.
They're not complete, but we are working through them.
it's not like we're completely ignoring the topic.
We have to do better.
What's being ignored, says City Council member Michael Kubash, is the public's trust.
I mean, we've got to follow through. This is critical. We can't allow this to go on without having proper oversight. It's got to be done. Because the public demands that. We've spent now, what, $8 million on this program? Let's make sure it's working.
He's running.
Now, in this letter to HPD, the camera manufacturer WatchGuard says it only found a few bad batteries. The company claims the root cause of most of the complaints is a failure to fully charge the camera.
Yeah, quite an investigation, Jeremy. A couple things. So no new cameras have been bought. You mentioned no audits. The officer mentioned it. They haven't been completed. So who exactly is looking at the video?
Well, Assistant Chief Jones says supervisors are putting eyes on footage anytime there's a use of force incident or an internal affairs complaint, and he says there are relatively few of those. Police are in contact, to give you a perspective, with about 1.5 million people a year. There's only 250 public complaints to internal affairs.
It does kind of give you the scope of what they're dealing with.
But we're waiting on those audits, and we'll report back.
I hear you. Thank you, Jeremy.
Sure.